If you've been hearing about AI agents but can't quite figure out what they are or how they work, this video is for you. This is AI Agents Explained for Beginners, and in this video, I'm going to go over what AI agents are and what they aren't, how they actually work, and we'll briefly go over some tools that you can use to build your own AI agents. And I promise this video won't get too technical, so if you're not a technical person, don't worry, this video is still for you. And if you are a technical person, I think you'll still find this interesting, so stick around. First, let's start with a couple of terms that you may have heard used interchangeably with the term AI agent that aren't actually AI agents. And that's a chatbot and an LLM. Let's start with a chatbot. If you've ever been on a web page and you've seen a little icon or a little assistant in the corner of the web page asking you if you have any questions, that is a chatbot. You ask it a question and it gives you an answer. But how does it actually generate these answers? Well, older chatbots can use a rules-based system. This means that if you're on a retail website and you see a little assistant in the corner of the screen asking you if you have any questions about shipping, a programmer may have created that chatbot in such a way that it gave it a rule. If a customer asks about shipping times, then the chatbot should return that shipping times are generally 3 to 7 days, and if they have additional questions, they can contact customer service. However, newer chatbots aren't just using this rules-based system to generate responses, but they're using a large language model, or an LLM, to generate their response. A large language model, or an LLM, is a model that is trained on massive amounts of text data so that it can understand and learn how to generate human-like responses. A chatbot powered by an LLM uses that LLM to generate a response that it then gives to you. You could really think of the LLM as the brain of the chatbot. And the chatbot is really an interface that you are using to interact with that LLM. An AI agent, however, is an autonomous system that can reason and act towards a goal. Let's illustrate the difference with an example. Let's say you want to plan a trip to LA. If you asked an LLM-powered chatbot to plan a 5-day trip to LA for the last week of October, it would probably return an itinerary of things to do on your 5-day trip. But this would just be a text response. Most LLM-powered chatbots can't access live data and don't have access to the internet, so they can't show you current flights or hotel options. And even if it's able to tell you, what airports to travel from or certain popular hotels, depending on what data the LLM was trained on, it can't actually go out and book any of those options for you. You would have to take those options, look up current flights, look up current hotel bookings, and then you would actually have to go and do all the bookings yourself. However, if you asked an AI agent to plan a 5-day trip to LA for the last week of October, it would probably access the internet to find popular things to do in LA around the time that you're going. It would also probably be able to access real-time flight and hotel information. And here's the real difference from an LLM-powered chatbot. Instead of the AI agent just returning to you a text response detailing all this information, it would actually go and book your flight and book your hotel for you, if you have given it prior permission to do that, of course. But that is the key difference. An AI agent takes action. A chatbot doesn't. And really can't. It's not like if the chatbot wanted to, it would. It doesn't have the tech to do that. So now that you know the difference between a chatbot, an LLM, and an AI agent, the next time someone refers to a chatbot as an AI agent, you can say, well, actually, or you can just direct them to this video. Sidebar, you may be wondering, is ChatGPT an LLM-powered chatbot or an AI agent? And that is an excellent question. And the answer is, it's kind of in between. If you ask ChatGPT to plan a 5-day trip to LA for you, it would return to you an itinerary of things to do, like an LLM-powered chatbot. However, when you ask it that, in the most recent versions of ChatGPT, you'll see it's probably also accessing the internet. So it is able to access some details about current flights or the best hotels to book. However, ChatGPT out of the box will still only return this information to you as a text response. It won't take the action to actually book the flights and hotels for you like an AI agent would. So ChatGPT's access to the internet makes it a little bit more advanced than an LLM-powered chatbot. However, its lack of ability to actually take action makes it so it doesn't really meet the criteria of an AI agent. It's kind of in between these two. Okay, sidebar over. So how do AI agents work? They follow a perceive, reason, act, feedback loop or workflow. Let's walk through that workflow using our example of planning a trip to LA. The first step is perceive. In this step, the agent tries to take in its environment and surroundings and tries to understand and make sense of it. In our example, in this step of the workflow, the agent would read in our input text of plan a 5-day trip to LA for the last week of October and try to understand what it means and what goal we're asking it to achieve. Next is reason. In this step, the agent reasons or thinks about what to do and plans a course of action. For our example, it might make the following plan. First, check the weather to see if it needs to suggest outdoor or indoor activities. Then it would plan to access an API that would let it look for flights and hotels. Then it may need to access an API for a payment processor. And then finally, it might plan to go and actually book all of these things. You may realize that a lot of those steps are similar to the steps you would follow to plan a vacation, aside from APIs and all that, but you would do the same thing, right? You would check the weather at the time you're going, you'd see what's popular to do, and then you'd look up flights and hotels, and then you'd actually go book those hotels. That would be your plan as well. The next stage is act. In the reason stage, the agent just planned out what to do. It didn't actually execute any of the plan. That's what happens in the act stage. In this step, the agent actually executes the plan. So for example, it actually goes to the internet and looks up things to do in LA. It will actually make the API calls or use whatever programming it has to go look up flights and then to actually book them. The last stage in the workflow is feedback. This is a more emerging step in the workflow. If you look up an agent workflow, a lot of times you'll see those first 3 stages, but you may not see this last stage. But more and more agents are starting to have this one as well. And the reflection or feedback loop is used to determine if the agent's chosen actions effectively helped achieve the goal. And there's several ways an agent can receive this feedback. It may get feedback from us, the user, where we say, you know, I don't like the things that you planned on this trip. Or it may receive certain API responses from booking sites, such as feedback that the API, that it wasn't able to book the flight or it wasn't able to book the hotel. The agent can then use this feedback to adjust its future decisions or improve its next actions. So now that we know the workflow of an AI agent, let's go a level deeper and look at the components that make up an AI agent and how they're used in each step of the workflow. The first component is a goal. This defines what the agent is trying to achieve. In our case, the goal is to plan a trip to LA. The agent also has an input method. For example, this can be a text field to type in your prompts. And this is the input it would use in our example of planning a vacation. However, there can also be different input methods. For example, let's say someone built an agent to help manage all their emails and reply to certain emails after a certain amount of time. The input for that agent wouldn't be a text field, but it would actually be the emails that are present in your Gmail or your Outlook. The goal and the input method are both used in the perceive step of the workflow. AI agents also have a reasoning engine. The reasoning engine is generally an LLM, which acts as the brain of the AI agent, and it works a lot like your brain works. The agent uses the LLM to think or reason through the steps it needs to take in order to achieve its goal. By default, the LLM uses the knowledge it gained during its training, when it was trained on that massive amount of text data. However, when an LLM is connected to external sources, it can also use real-time or domain-specific data. You may have heard of the term for this process. It's called Retrieval Augmented Generation, or RAG for short. In this process, the LLM pulls external information, processes it, and uses it along with the data it already has to reason. RAG is kind of like how when you Google things for research, you're adding anything you learned from Google to the knowledge you already had. In our example of planning a trip, our AI agent might use RAG to retrieve information about flights or hotels, or even information about what are popular things to do in LA. Now, can you guess which step of the workflow the reasoning engine is used in? If you guessed reason, then congratulations, you are correct. The fourth component is tools. And just like you need tools to complete a task, like a screwdriver to assemble a shelf, an AI agent also has tools that help it complete a task. For our travel agent, an example of a tool could be access to Google to look up things to do in LA, or access to justfly.com or Expedia to look up flights and hotels. It may also have a tool that lets it access payment processors like Stripe. These tools are all used in the act step of the workflow because these tools help the AI agent actually execute everything it planned in the reason step. Finally, an AI agent also has memory, which stores and remembers the agent's past actions, tasks, and context. And this component is used in all steps of the workflow. Now, there are a couple of different types of architectural or design types for agent systems. The first is a single agent system. This is where there's only one agent. It has all the tools that it needs to complete its task, and it completes any task that it's given to. It's just one agent on its own. The other type is a multi-agent system. In this system, there are multiple agents and each one has its own tools that it uses to complete a specific set of tasks or a specific type of task. If you've heard the phrase agent orchestration, this is where that comes in. In a multi-agent system, like I mentioned before, there's a bunch of agents and each of them kind of specializes in a specific type or a specific subset of tasks. They all have all the components I mentioned before, but the way they are assigned tasks and the way they communicate with each other is determined through agent orchestration. In some cases, there's an agent overseeing all of these agents in a multi-agent system, and this is called an orchestrating agent. It's the one that determines which agent gets certain tasks. You can kind of think of it as an orchestra director, directing various parts of the band. So to wrap up, let's talk about the tools you can use to create your own AI agents. If you're someone that likes to code, there's different Python libraries and frameworks you can use like LangChain or Crew AI. But if you don't know how to code or just don't want to code, there's also no-code tools you can use like N8N that you can use to build out your own AI agents. Now, I know it's difficult to keep up with all of these AI concepts. I mean, it seems like they're constantly changing. There's constantly new concepts to learn. But I really hope this video at least helped you make a little bit more sense of the basics of AI agents. And this is just a starting point. Like I mentioned before, these are just the basics of AI agents. You can go deeper into each of these topics. For example, you can learn more about the types of agents or learn more about the specific types of design patterns of multi-agent systems or single agent systems. But for now, hopefully this video helped you understand the basics of AI agents. If it did, I would love it if you subscribed to the channel and liked and shared this video with someone else who's also wondering about the basics of AI agents. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.